Well, hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. It is Sunday today, so we are excited to be looking at the book of Psalms. Every Sunday we look at the book of Psalms, and it's called Sunday in Psalms. So today we are looking at Psalm 55. These I love when we can tie one of the stories of David into the psalm. And this is one where we don't know for sure, but based on what you read and hear, it ties in really well with the story of Ahithophel, who was this takes place when Absalom was really having a mutiny with there and trying to take over the kingdom. And you're going to see how this all relates to the Psalm 55. And it's entitled today, Cast Your Cares Upon the Lord. That is actually taken from in Psalm 55, verse 22, where it says, Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let your righteousness be shaken. Okay, so you're going to see David is crying out for help. A lot of these Psalms is like that. He's crying out for help, and you're going to see how that is taken care of. So if you turn in your Bibles, not to Psalm 55 first, but to 2 Samuel, we're going to look at 2 Samuel chapter 16, verses 15, all the way to 17:23. What's taking place here is Absalom is coming into Jerusalem, and David, because he wants Jerusalem to be saved, he doesn't want it all destroyed, a big battle to take place there. He leaves Jerusalem. He's fleeing Jerusalem. And as he's doing this, just before this, Shimei is walking alongside, throwing rocks and cursing at David. And now we're getting to the point where you have the advisor of that was an advisor of David, Ahithophel. Okay, that's a hard name for me to say. It's a tongue twister every time I say it. So you're going to see where David says, "Hey, Lord, it would be great if you can confuse the advice of Ahithophel." So let's read this here. This is taken from 2 Samuel 16, verses 15 all the way to 17:23. Again, just a warning, this might be a longer episode because it's a longer passage that we're looking at that ties it in with Psalm 55. It says this, Meanwhile, Absalom and all the men of Israel came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with them. And then Hushai the Archite, David's confidant, went to Absalom and said to him, Long live the king, long live the king. Absalom said to Hushai, So this is the love you show for your friend. If he is your friend, why don't you go with him? Hushai said to Absalom, No, the one chosen by the Lord, by the people, and by all the men of Israel, his I will be, and I will remain with him. Furthermore, whom should I serve? Should I not serve the son, just as I served your father? So I will serve you. Absalom said to Ahithophel, Give us your advice. What should we do? Okay, so they're in a predicament here, like, what's the next step we need to be taken to overthrow the kingdom? Ahithophel answered, Sleep with your father's concubines, whom he left to take care of the palace. Then all Israel will hear that you have made yourself obnoxious to your father and the hands of everyone with you to be resolute. So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and he slept with his father's concubines in the sight of Israel. This was actually prophesied that this would happen when David sinned with Bathsheba. Verse 23, Now in those days the advice of Ahithophel gave was like that of one who inquires of God. That was how both David and Absalom regarded Ahithophel's advice. All right? So, Ahithophel, yeah, that's his name. This guy was an advisor to David, and then he basically becomes a traitor to David and starts advising Absalom here. All right, now we're going into chapter 17. Ahithophel said to Absalom, I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. I would attack him while he is weary and weak, and I would strike him with terror, and then all the people with him will flee. I would strike down only the king, and bring all the people back to you. The death of the man you seek will mean the return of all, and all the people will be unharmed. This plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. Okay, again, Ahithophel is known for great advice, and so he gives us advice. It's like kind of a slam dunk here. Let's see what happens, though. Verse 5, but Absalom said, summon also Hushai the Archite, so we can hear what he has to say as well. When Hushai came to him, Absalom said, Ahithophel has given this advice. Should we do what he says? If not, give us your advice, your opinion. Now, Ahithophel was an advisor to David and Absalom, and he has become really a traitor to David. Okay? Hushai comes along, and he has a plan with David, and he works out this plan with David to give bad advice to Absalom. All right, so Hushai and David have already worked this out. Please give bad advice, confuse everything here. So let's see what happens. Verse 7. Hushai replied to Absalom, the advice Ahithophel has given is not good this time. You know your father and his men. They are fighters, and as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Besides, your father is an experienced fighter, and he will not spend the night with the troops. Even now he is hidden in a cave or some other place. If he should attack your troops first, whoever hears about it will say, there has been a slaughter among the troops. Who will follow Absalom? Then even the bravest soldier, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt in fear. For all Israel knows that your father is a fighter, and those who are with him are brave. Verse 11. So I advise you, let all Israel from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand on the seashore, be gathered to you, with you yourself leading them into battle. Then we will attack him wherever he may be found, and we will fall on him as dew settles to the ground. Neither he nor any of the men will be left alive. If he withdraws into the city, then all Israel will bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it down into the valley until not so much as pebble is left. Verse 14. Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel. For the Lord has determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster on Absalom. Okay? This was all orchestrated by God. Okay? They hear the advice of Hushai, and they're like, you know what? That sounds like better advice. Even though Hushai, gave advice that wasn't good. Verse 15. Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar the priest, and Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do such and such, but I advise them to do so and so. Now send a message at once and tell David, do not spend the night at the fords in the wilderness. Cross over without fail, or the king and all the people with him will be swallowed up. Jonathan and Amariah, so these guys, I'm going to summarize here a bit. So these two guys went, and they told David exactly what was going to happen here. So let me jump down to verse 20. When Absalom's men came to the woman at the house, they asked, where are Amaziah and Jonathan, these two men? And Absalom, sent guys after him. And the woman answered, they crossed over the brook. The men searched but found no one. So they returned to Jerusalem. After they had gone, the two men climbed out the well and went to inform King David. They said to him, set out and cross the river at once. Ahithophel has advised such and such against you. So David and all the people with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By daybreak, no one was left who had not crossed the Jordan. This is the end of the story right here. When Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his hometown. He put his house in order and then hanged himself. So he died and was buried with his father's tomb. Okay? Ahithophel saw that his advice wasn't... He had been a respected advisor to David. He had been a respected advisor now to Absalom. But Absalom decided to go with Hushai's advice. When he saw that his advice was not followed, and he probably saw that it was going to be disastrous, he went and hung himself. And soon after this is when Absalom is also killed. The advice was confusing, and so it all worked out. David prayed, Lord, bring confusion to Absalom with the advice he's given, and that's what happened. So we go back now to Psalm 55. In Psalm 55, this is, when you read that, what we read in 2 Samuel, you put that together with Psalm 55, it makes great sense as to what's happening. David is in this psalm, he's crying out to God, Lord, I need your help, okay? You're going to see in here that he's also talking about how people are speaking against him, okay? So it's not just the physical, but it's also people speaking against you. So this was a real thing. David was the king, but he still cared about what people thought of him, all right? There's people that I care about what they think of me, but then there's other people I could care less what they think of me. But, and this is a real thing here. You shouldn't be guided, though, however, but by what everyone thinks of you. You'd be going crazy with that. All right, let's read Psalm 55. It says this, listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught because of what the enemy is saying, because of the threats of the wicked, for they bring down suffering on me and assail me in their anger. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling have beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. I said, oh, that I had the wings of the dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Okay, and that's what's happening here. David is distraught. He is leaving his home in Jerusalem, and he's walking out, of Jerusalem, and he's like, man, if I could just flee. If I had wings, I'd fly away from this mess. Verse 7, I would flee far away and stay in the desert. I would hurry to the place of shelter, far from the tempest and the storm. Lord, confuse the wicked and confound their words. This is exactly what we just read in 2 Samuel. He's asking, Lord, confuse their words. And that's what was happening with Ahithophel. For I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about in its walls. Malice and abuse are written within it. Destructive forces are at work in the city, and threats and lies never leave the streets. If an enemy were insulting me, if a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God, as we walked about among the worshippers. Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the realm of the dead, for evil finds lodging among them. Okay? He's bringing, not just frustrate their plans, but bring death upon them. Verse 16, as for me, I call to God, and the Lord saves me, evening and morning and noon. I cry out in distress, and he hears my voice. He rescues me unharmed from the battle waged against me. Even though many oppose me, God, who is enthroned from of old, who does not change, he will hear them and humble them, because they have no fear of God. My companion attacks his friends, and he violates his covenant. His talk is smooth as butter, yet war is in his heart. His words are soothing like oil, yet they are drawn swords. Okay, this is exactly like describing Absalom. He was a smooth talker. He spent time outside the court just wooing everybody and gaining all their support just because of his smooth talking there. Verse 22, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. But you, God, will bring down the wicked into the pit of decay. The bloodthirsty and deceitful will not live out their half their days. But as for me, I trust in you. All right. As we conclude this episode here, I wanted to point out, David had said, cast your cares on the Lord, and he's going to sustain you. It was evidenced here in this whole story in 2 Samuel and then in Psalm 55. God will do that with David, and he will also do that with you. You need to cast your cares upon him, and he will take care of you. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday as we continue our journey in Psalms, and then also through the week as we continue our journey in the book of Numbers. Lord's blessing. I will see you then.